Hey guys, I'm 21 years old and I treat Bitcoin as my savings account. So I left school and I'm chucked into a world where I don't understand money. I don't understand inflation. I don't understand why everything around me continues to go up. There's no explanation why that is. There's no explanation why I should be trying to invest to keep my purchasing power. Rather, people are just told, hey, go work a job, save it in Aussie dollars or US dollars, and then save up for a house, buy a house, and then treat that as your savings account, I guess. Top up your mortgage when you can, and then withdraw from it when you need. And that's going to be your best chance at being successful. But unfortunately, that mortgage is 25, 30, 35 years, and it's getting longer and longer and more difficult to pay off. And so young people these days are going into the big, scary world, and they're told, hey, go get a degree, go study, go to university or college, and go get a well-paying job, and then start this process, buy a house, start to pay it off. And then, but I'm here to tell you that there's an alternative, and the alternative is saving in Bitcoin and hustling and working for Bitcoin rather than treating it like you're hustling for dollars, because dollars, they are a currency that is inflated. So let's say, for example, you save up 100 grand by the end of the year working a job. You lose 10% of that purchasing power, so its value. So then it's only worth $90,000. It might be $100,000 on paper, but as you roll into the next year, it's only worth $90,000. And the reason that is because they've printed the 10% as a money supply. So if they print 10% of the money supply in Australia, then I lose 10% of all my dollars. They lose 10% of their purchasing power. They can buy 10% less things than they could the year before. And that's why things around us all go up, because there's more dollars in the system. Therefore, the dollars are worth less, and therefore the items are worth more. Does that make sense? So you got to stay with me here. So if you can now trade your dollars for Bitcoin, as an example, Bitcoin is a currency as well. It's a money as well. It's a store of value as well. And it works better than Aussie dollars or US dollars. The reason being is because it's not inflated. The supply of it's not inflated 10% a year or 12% a year, or sometimes some countries are 50% or 90% or 100%. And even the US dollar, it's lost 99% of its value in like 100 years. So since 1913, it's lost 99.9% of its value. Houses that were $100,000 in 1913 are now $100 million. So that is a broken system. And if the US dollar is the strongest currency that we have, and it's lost 99.9% of its value, then that's your winner, and it's doing that. That's the winner, and it's doing that terribly. So we need something new. We need a new money. Our money's not working. And there's a reason that people feel as though they have to buy a house as soon as possible, because houses are going up more than our raises at work, more than the groceries at the store. They are outperforming other things because they're more difficult to make and they're a better store of value than dollars. Naturally, they will rise to the top. Naturally, they will do, say, example, a $200,000 house in the early 2000s is now $600,000, $700,000. It's because people are treating them as a store of value and treating them as an investment, not just as a shelter over their head. So they're driving these prices up by buying everything on the market. Say like a Chinese investor will come into Australia and buy 10 houses. Do you think I'll be able to do that? No. So they've just priced out the average Australian, the average young person coming through. And I've basically got no chance of buying a house. Now, this is where Bitcoin comes in as the superior store of value. Its inflation rate goes down over time. So you can even compare this to gold. So gold's inflation rate, global inflation rate across the world is around 2%. So 2% of its supply is added into the current supply. So its supply is increasing by 2% every year. So therefore it's inflationary. Therefore, there's more and more gold being found constantly. Some country might find $1 trillion of gold tomorrow and suddenly inflate the gold supply, therefore the money supply in gold, by that percentage, whatever they found. So therefore, it's not the best store of value, and it's unpredictable too. Like let's say we get to Mars and we bring back $20 trillion worth of gold, then gold's not going to be worth that much anymore. So it's been diluted. So gold's not the superior, but Bitcoin, it's predictable. So its supply is predictable. It gets released every 10 minutes. It gets released this every year. Then there's a halving, so its supply goes down. So every 4 years, the supply that's getting released to the market gets halved. And so it's actually deflationary release of the money supply. This is so superior to an inflationary release of a money supply. So Swap your dollars into gold, and I'm going to give you an alternative to finishing school, going into huge amounts of debt for studying, so whether that's uni or college, into a job you don't even enjoy. It's just because you think, oh, I'm actually a pretty smart person, I should just go into this, try and make some good money, but I have to take on hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to get there. But that's all right, I'll pay it off later, or I'll get my kids to pay it off when I die, or whatever your plan is. So unfortunately, you're so encouraged to go do this, but I'm saying there's an alternative. You don't have to just go rush into a degree that you hate, make nearly no money for the 4 years of the degree or the 7 years of the degree. You could get a little crappy casual job where you're only earning like $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year. It's like alternative. You finish school, you go straight into a job, straight into a full-time job, maybe whatever that looks like. Try and find one that's the best paying, that's going to give you the most hours, and you start hustling. You just go full, I'm all in, baby. Stay at home with your parents for the next 4 years. I'm talking 4 years, so by the time you're 22. Don't go take on huge amounts of debt for studying and all this college and all the bull crap. Lock in and just go, I'm all in, baby. Maybe you find a side hustle. Maybe you find an extra income outside of your full-time job. But you're not just saving in dollars, because there's no point. They're a melting ice cube. They're losing value over time. All your time and energy can just be printed like that, and all of it was a waste of time. So for example, someone that's saved up a retirement fund and it's taken them 40, 50 years to get there. If they print 40% of the money supply, they've just lost 40% of their whole retirement fund. So 40% of their time and energy contribute to that retirement fund, gone, just like that by the click of the button. So that's why you don't save in dollars, because you will be absolutely robbed. And I'm seeing this everywhere. Like, everyone's just getting absolutely destroyed every time they print money. And unless you're holding, hard assets, and hard assets being Bitcoin. So you're hustling, and as soon as you get your payslip, save what you need for that week. But if you're living at home, it should be basically nothing. Hopefully your parents are supportive and they pay for your groceries, and maybe you don't have to, maybe you only pay $50 or $100 a board or rent or whatever you want to call it to your parents to stay there. But you lock in and you put anything excess. You don't go buying designer clothes. You don't try and get an expensive car. You don't try and do this. You try and do that. You just get a car that gets you from A to B, and the rest goes into Bitcoin. So pay what you need, but as your savings account, you don't need to hold any dollars. You don't even really need a rainy day emergency fund, because you're living at your parents' house. You'll be fine. If something comes up, work for the next few weeks and pay for it. So there shouldn't be all these unpredictable expenses when you're living at home. So this is your advantage. This is when you can really crank up that dial and start setting your life up for the future. Swap it all into Bitcoin. Any dollar that you make that you don't need to use, save it in Bitcoin and hold it for your dear life. Learn how to secure it. Treat it like the most precious thing in your life, because you need to have this long term. You need to hold this as long as possible. The longer you hold it, the better. So you now understand that you need to hold Bitcoin, right? I am going to predict with this strategy, now you've avoided old debt, so you're already in a positive compared to all your peers around you, all your peers that are going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to become a doctor, to become a teacher, to become this, to become that. You're already ahead of them. They're already in the negatives. You're in the positive because you're flatline zero, and you're broke, but you're actually rich in some sense because you're not in any debt. So you start at zero. The first year you hustle, you get 30 grand in Bitcoin. You manage to do that for the next 4 years, and this is when this comes into play. So we look at this slide, we can see the first 4 years is in green. It can tell you what the Bitcoin's price is, assuming that it continues to rise. I did 40% as a conservative amount. It's been doing 50 or 60, but let's say it goes down to 40, and we can see for the next 4 years, you managed to put away 30 grand into Bitcoin every single year. So first at 108,000, boom, 30 grand at this price. Then its price goes up 40%. You do another 30 grand, then it goes again, then it goes again. And we can see how much you are accumulating. And then we see I did in the yellow, this is when after 4 years, the value at the end, you've got 213 grand. So you're 22 and you have 213 grand US in Bitcoin, because you've now accumulated 0.71. Now this gives you enough of a financial foundation, financial security to go try new things. This is when you can either consider, maybe I still go study. There's the thing that I need, that I want to do long term as a career, and I need to get a degree for it. This is when you consider it. But don't do it straight away when you flatline broke, because all it will do is set you back further. So you either decide if you're going to go to college or uni and get a degree, or you decide if you want to continue hustling and do the same strategy, another 4 years or another 8 years of just full-time hustle, try and get as much Bitcoin as possible, because you can see the growth, you see how much you're making, and it's like ridiculous numbers, right? Or you decide, I'm not going to do this full-time job. I'm sick of hustling. I've spent the last 4 years hustling. I don't have a nice car. I haven't done this. I haven't rewarded myself. Maybe you start taking a bit off the table, start rewarding yourself. Or you go, I quit my full-time job. I'm only going to do 20 hours or 30 hours a week instead of 40 or 50, but I'm going to do something that I'm passionate about, do something that I think I could maybe earn an income, but it's something I'm passionate, something that I enjoy, and you can take the risk because you've got 200 grand sitting in the bank and you're still at your parents' house. So maybe you're into drawing, or maybe into something that you feel you can't really make money off the get-go, and you'd have to build up some sort of portfolio, some sort of business, and it's going to take time where you're not earning a weekly salary. So this Bitcoin allows you to take a risk and pursue your passions, pursue your dreams, pursue what you need to do, find other ways to make money. Maybe you go into some sort of digital marketing, or using AI to, cut things and make things more efficient, whatever it may be. There's all these hustlers, all these people that are mass producing YouTube shorts, things like that. It's all just brain rot content, but they know that something is broken in the algorithm right now, and they are taking advantage of it. So there's 17, 18-year-old kids that are making 60 grand, 100 grand a month, whatever it may be. And they are killing it because they understood, hey, there's basically a money printer in all this automatic digital production using AI. So you find something, but you quit your full-time job, because working 40, 50 hours a week is brutal and it's not sustainable. So you've done it for 4 years, you've hustled, you've got to yourself 0.719145 Bitcoin. And now it's like, okay, I can ease back and actually go take a risk. So now, assuming that you only can put these in the yellow, 10 grand a year into Bitcoin on top of your initial stack, these are the numbers. But if you find a hustle that is actually producing more than that, then obviously these numbers are going to go up. So you won't end up with only 0.79, basically 0.8 in year 12. So by the time you're 30, maybe you earned more than a whole coin, maybe even get to 2 whole coins, depending on if you continued to hustle, or depending on if you pursued your passion and it took off and started to make you more money than your original full-time job. Like, you can play with these numbers in your head, but if you just decided to cruise in life and only managed to put 10 grand into Bitcoin every year from this point onwards, by the 12th year, so your 30th birthday, Bitcoin has reached $4.3 million a coin, and you've bought only 0.002286 that year, but the total that you've accumulated is 0.797788, and that is now going to be worth basically $3.5 million by the time you're 30. So these numbers, like, to me, this is conservative. If you manage to pull this off, like, you are chilling, man. Like, you can retire, or you could choose to continue doing your passion. You can actually contribute to the world just outside of a payslip every week. But yeah, it starts to really blow you away. And so, yeah, these numbers are insane, but you can tinker with these. Maybe you're not only chucking in an extra 10 grand a year, maybe you find a way to get 20 or 30 or 40. And so I just wanted to do a conservative play, but conservatively earning 3.5 million in 12 years straight out of school is a very good job. And you're going to be ahead of anyone that went to college or uni or anything like that. And they're probably all still in debt. You're debt free. So you're positive 3.5 mil. They're probably negative 100 grand, negative 80 grand, whatever it is. I don't know how much debt things are, because I didn't do any of that stuff. But I've heard some crazy numbers. So I'm not pulling these numbers out of my butt. This is reality. So it's something to think about, guys, but look into Bitcoin if you haven't. If you're 18, 19, 20, coming out of school, you're not sure what to do, and you're worried that you're just going to rush into a degree you hate, rush into a career you hate, take a step back, take a breather, find a way to get as much Bitcoin as possible, put that other ideas and life on hold for 4 years, lock in while its price is still cheap. This is why I'm saying you got to do it now, because if you just go to study and go into a career for the next 4 years and you can't accumulate much Bitcoin, the price will get away from you. How hard is it going to be to buy Bitcoin when it's 500 grand or $1 million or $2 million? It's not even possible. So these next 4 years are so crucial, just like the last 4 years, just like the last 16 years. These years are ticking by so fast and its price is just getting away from everyone. An asset that's appreciating 50, 60% a year is something that you want now, not tomorrow, not next year. You want to get it now and time is running out. Put a pause on other things at life right now because this is important. If you want to actually pursue things that you care about, you need to be adopting Bitcoin. So thanks guys for watching, and this is what I think an 18-year-old should do coming out of school. Cheers guys. Thanks.